Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. My name is Peter Schrappen, your co-host of Seattle Boat Show Live. There's my partner, my compadre, Mark Bunzel. Hey, Mark.
Hey, Peter.
How is it going, sir?
We're getting ready for the Seattle Boat Show. We'll talk about that later, but the Landons are going to be on with us, and they've been busy preparing presentations for the boat show. There they are. Hi, Leonard. Hi, Lorena. And it's pretty busy, and we're also monitoring the deployment of the Wagner Guide. So it's out there. It's no bell.
I got you. I was just seeing. Yeah, I got it.
All right. So it's now out in the stores, and in those who ordered it, it's going out to them. Some members of our BA who donated money, the copies are going out to them, and we hope to get it under everybody's Christmas tree by December 24th. So we have a few left. So if you still want to order
just
some,
a handful.
Just a handful. In fact, the second delivery showed up today. A tractor trailer from Altona, Canada, pulled up and dropped off 8 pallet loads of books. So we got plenty to sell.
Exciting times. Get them while they're hot.
Yeah.
Nice. So what's new in your world, Mark?
Well, I didn't get out boating this week. I wanted to. I was out the week before doing a sea trial on some repairs that I had done on the boat. And I don't know, we'll see how the weather holds up. I want to get out again before the end of the year and test a few things out. Leonard and I both have our Cortex units, our AIS VHF units that we've been testing and learning more about. And wow, just a lot of capabilities to learn, neat stuff. And we'll probably have another show to talk about that. And Leonard and Lorena are now, they are unofficial Kiwis. They've been on the phone with the development team in New Zealand and trying to speak New Zealand. It's a different language, you know.
Yeah.
Especially when you're talking.
The biggest challenge was on a Zoom call trying to figure out the timing and which day they were going to call, what the Zoom call was going to happen. Got all of that backwards, but no, it's been good. And and you were talking about all of the stuff in Cortex, and they just came out with a new release and all new features, a whole bunch of new features in the latest release of it. It's quite an astonishing device. One of those with with a number of subtle features in it that you at first kind of go, well, that's kind of interesting, but then when you get deeper into it, you go, that's really interesting.
So we'll report more on that as we get up to speed with it. But it's quite interesting to how the technology is being applied. And how about you, Peter? What's happening in the law, the world of legislation?
The world of laws. Well, I was gonna say I love that intro because it's the only time I see the sun between weeks. You know, that intro that we've got at the Seattle Boat Show Live. But no, the sun was out a little bit today. The governor's budget came out today. There's about $15 million in the boating facilities program. That's that unfunded gas tax dollars that boaters could claim if they wanted, or if they don't, it goes into what's called the recreation resource account, which is then parceled back out to different boating programs, boating infrastructure, marina bathrooms.
Is that what primarily goes out through RCO?
That's right. Yep, the Recreation and Conservation Office, what I consider Santa's little helper out there as they divvy up all that unfunded gas tax dollars. Yeah, they are incredible state agency. I think they're one of the smallest state agencies, and they just give out money to different municipalities and agencies. And if you are a private, if you are a private marina, there's some money there for larger boats. Anyway, so we're looking at about $18 million, and we got about 15.7 $15 million in the governor's budget, and that's because of people have stopped driving as much as they were last year. So this is a gas tax funded part of the budget, and given that people aren't leaving their homes, less money for boaters. But so that's going on, working on getting this skipper chartered issue passed. That would be an extension of that marine tourism bill, which we had success in 2016. So I've met with a few lawmakers between we last saw each other and did some presentations there, all via Zoom. And yeah, we're getting some Christmas gifts in our office. I smiled when I saw this. We got extra fancy, not cashews, Mark, not jumbo cashews, extra fancy jumbo cashews. I think for every qualifier, actually, I think it's another probably $15 that they're
Probably.
So yeah, no, getting geared up for the holiday season. We got the SeattleBoatShow.com up and running. The tickets are on sale now, so get them while they're hot. You can watch the Seattle Boat Show Connected. You can watch my string of guests for free, which I know you'll be doing, Mark, when you're not running Boat Show University. But you can also spend $5
Absolutely.
and get into the show, or you can spend up to $89 and a couple of different packages in between. And at the highest levels, you get a complimentary ticket to next year's boat show. You get a Wagoner cruising guide. You get access to Boat Show University. So we've sold some tickets already. So get out there, get your tickets, check out that $89 package at Boat Show University, something you've wanted to do, but maybe didn't have the time. They'll be pre-recorded this year. So yeah, stay tuned for that. More as we
pre-recorded, but the speakers at Boat Show University will be available live.
I meant to say that. We're recording them, not pre-recording them. Yeah, where I'm from in the Midwest, when you pull out meat from the freezer, we say we're de-thawing it, but actually we're thawing the meat when it's out of the freezer. I think I just did that there with the pre-record. So yeah, one of those double negatives or something. But yeah, so no, we're gearing up there. The NMTA staff, small staff, big show, and all hands are on deck, and all the other cliches, all rowing in the same motion, and no iron team, all the stuff, all the cliches, Mark.
Yep. Well, in years past on the boat show, we always used to sweat, geez, are the Seahawks going to be in the playoffs? And it's kind of different this year. We're not having to worry about that. We want them to make the playoffs, but normally what would happen is we get into a little bit of a conflict with the boat show and the Seahawks. And of course, the Seahawks would win that conflict. And one year we had a boat show and they went to the Super Bowl. That was a very exciting year. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, when the Seahawks are winning, that's good for boat show fever, and the smiles on people's faces when the Seahawks are in the playoffs is something to behold. So what's good for the Seahawks is good for the Seattle Boat Show. But yeah, we're not going to be running into them or the traffic as we do the online virtual load in, which has started. And I encourage folks to check out SeattleBoatShow.com. We got our first question in the chat box. Oh, where are you from, Peter? Well, that's from Thatcher Harvey. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. Born and raised, but moved out here in 2000. So yeah, thank you for asking. But yeah, we encourage you all to use the chat as we go along in the show.
We'll answer your questions, and later on, we're going to have Elizabeth and Shawn from Motor Vessel Freedom, two cruisers who are living the dream, and it'll be great to talk to them to see how they've gone about working out this lifestyle of living and working on their 43-foot Nordhavn. It looks, if you can see what they're doing on YouTube, and they're extremely entertaining, and I think very realistic. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on. So hang in there for that. Landons, do we have any announcements at all this week? I don't think we do we?
Oh, we do. We got some stuff. We always have something.
A couple of reminders for the lighted boat parade. There's still a few left if you want to do that. This Saturday, December 19th, don't forget about the annual Tacoma Yacht Club lighted parade in Commencement Bay. And at Lake Union in Seattle, that's also Saturday. That's at 7 p.m. And then our boater friends in Portland, they have 4 nights left of their 15-night lighted parade. So that's Saturday, 19th, 20th, 21st, and 22nd.
And then I guess I got the wrong. I got the. I thought tonight was the night for the most obnoxious
Leonard, I think
Christmas sweaters. So do I get the prize then? If I,
Not as ugly.
Stand up, Leonard. We have to get the full view here. Leonard came into the office with this thing.
It's the most obnoxious mixture of stuff for a Christmas sweater. So I thought tonight was a night for that, but I guess I had that wrong.
He didn't get the memo.
We didn't want to upstage you, Leonard. We didn't want to upstage you, so yeah, you look
I
fantastic.
think Leonard is very brave for wearing his ugly Christmas sweater tonight. Thank you.
So the only other news was just to share what we've been working on busily is getting ready for the virtual boat show and one of the 2 Wagoner booths, and we're working on the services booth where we're putting together some videos of different cruising areas. So we have 4 different videos of different cruising areas around here with about 10-minute videos that give you teasers and some insights and information about how to go cruise those areas. And those will be available on, again, on the Wagoner Services booth. It's the Marine Group, Wagoner Marine Group. And take a look at those. And then we put together some packages of the resources, books, maps, planning charts, etc., that you would need to cruise these specific areas. And that's what we've been working on, getting those ready for the virtual boat show. That's news.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Yeah, well, my mom says, Leonard, you win first prize.
Yeah.
And she is a tough grader, I'll tell you. So congratulations.
Well, this is, I guess it's because it's the only entry tonight.
Well,
I haven't. That's happened.
Red on.
It's what Peter has under his vest. He's hiding it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Got it.
All right, enough
Cool.
fun and games. Let's get on to anything else before we get on to the serious stuff? All right.
All right. Enough said.
Yeah.
Speechless.
Elizabeth and Shawn, come on, save us.
Come on down.
There they are.
Oh. Whoa.
We changed.
We weren't going to let Leonard be the only festive one, so we put on our hats.
Very good. We did a
No,
little
we didn't get the memo on that.
Well, we were, yeah. Leonard started this, and anyway. I want to introduce Elizabeth and Shawn from Motor Vessel Freedom. If you haven't seen their YouTube videos, take a look. Not right now, wait till after the show, but they have done a fantastic job. And there's a number of cruising couples that have done these incredible YouTube channels. And some of them, you can tell their entire career is entertaining a YouTube channel. And I will say there's a difference though. The other ones, Sailing Doodles and some of the others, are typically in a beautiful tropical location with warm blue water, jumping off the boat into this. And Elizabeth and Shawn decided to do the Pacific Northwest. So it's got the beauty, but not so much swimming in the water. And we'll talk about that a little later on. They do a fantastic job, and you watch these shows and you just think they're living the dream. And they are. You keep your boat at shoal, right? If you're not out on the water. And Shawn is working, well, you're both working full time, but Shawn somehow, Shawn, you must have the most incredible boss. I hope he or she does not watch your show.
Hopefully not.
You know
Hopefully not.
You know what's surprising enough, and maybe someone just has seen it and hasn't said anything, but I work in a company of about 1,500 people, and there hasn't been a single person approach me that said they've seen us on YouTube. So it's the big secret.
We'll keep your secret out here.
Well, the Seattle Boat Show Live might just crack open that entire nut there.
That's right.
It might. So, and we do have Midwestern viewers. Peter's mother is watching every week from, the Show Me State of Missouri. Did I get that right now?
Got it. Yeah, it's only taken us 28 episodes, but you nailed it, Mark. Stuck the
Thank
landing.
Thank you. And she's on every Thursday night for us, and she sends comments in, and we appreciate that. We're glad to have some representation from the Midwest. Elizabeth and Shawn located here from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which, as I was sharing with them earlier, is my hometown where I was born and lived till I was 10 years old and learned how to boat on the lakes of Wisconsin, as Elizabeth and Shawn did. And how did you pick the Northwest? What was the big draw?
Well, if we're being completely honest, it was like 2013, 2012 when the 50 Shades books were huge. And I hadn't read them, but everybody I knew had been reading them, and people were going to Seattle to visit. I guess there were 50 Shades tours you could do. And after like a year of seeing all of these people posting on Facebook, these beautiful pictures of Seattle, I asked Shawn, I said, for my birthday next year, which was 2013 at the time, I said, let's do a long weekend in Seattle and see what it's all about, because I grew up thinking it rained here all the time. I had never seen mountains before. So we just decided to come for the weekend, and it was October and it was 70 and sunny the whole time. And we boated in the morning, or we skied in the morning and boated in the afternoon, and just totally fell in love. And we said, okay, let's come back in the winter and, you know, see what it's like in the winter. So we came back in January of 2014. And we didn't know at the time when we booked it, but it was Super Bowl Sunday when the Seahawks won the Super Bowl. So we were at our hotel.
Well. Yeah.
We were at our hotel watching the Super Bowl, and we were just like, God, this feels like it could be home someday. Because we always thought, and we wanted to boat year round, and we thought Florida would be the place for that. But we never felt like Florida could be home. It just didn't feel right. So we said, okay, if the Seahawks win the Super Bowl, that's a sign that we're going to move here. And I told Shawn, I said, I've already changed jobs once in my life. You're going to find a job out here. And the Seahawks won the Super Bowl. I ended up finding a job, and by April 30th, we had moved out here.
And at the time, you owned a boat in Milwaukee, I believe, and you brought it out here. Is that correct? What kind of boat did you start with?
We did, yeah. So this is our fourth boat. The boat that we moved out here was our second boat. It was a Carver 360 Sport Sedan, which was quite an endeavor to get it out here, just because it's a bridge boat, so it's very tall. I had to disconnect everything and hire a crane to lift the bridge off and put the two sections on a truck. And I don't know, I think we spent $15,000 or something to have a truck bring it out here. And we dropped it off at CSR, and they helped me put the boat back together. So that's the boat that we moved out here, and now we're on to boat 4. Once we were here, the Carver was a lot of fun. We enjoyed it for about a year. We've been out here for a little over 6 years. So we've had the Carver for about a year, and then we bought a Searay Sundancer, 40-foot Sundancer, and we had that boat and really enjoyed the boat. We circumnavigated Vancouver Island. We really kind of went everywhere with it. But then we knew that, you know, it just wasn't the long-term boat that we wanted. It didn't have the range and the capability that we wanted in a boat, and we were looking at trawlers, and that's how we ended up with the Nordhavn.
Before you moved out here, had you done much kind of big water sort of boating, or were you more into lake boating?
I mean, the Great Lakes, which is big water.
Yeah.
I mean, inside, you know, the protected waters of Puget Sound, we have found to be easier boating than the Great Lakes by far. The Great Lakes, you got to watch out for weather systems in the summer, and they can kick up some pretty nasty seas and waves on pretty short periods. Probably some of the scariest seas we've been in have been on the Great Lakes. Certainly we've been in some nasty stuff out here as well, but
They're nothing
to mess with. Yeah, they're big water.
Right on.
So what were your first impressions? Did you go up to the San Juan Islands and look around and go, oh, this is okay? Or what was it?
You know, at the time when we were in Milwaukee, we were watching some YouTube channels.
Oh yeah, the boat guy.
The boat
Chip
guy, Chip Hanauer.
Yeah.
You know,
Sure.
and Pacific Northwest Boater.
Yeah.
And they had a lot of episodes on the San Juans. And I think one of the first places after we had the boat put back together and splashed in the water here was going up to Lopez Island. We went to Spencer Spit, and that was, one of our first destinations.
Yeah.
Wow. And now I've been following your YouTube channel, and you've made it to quite a few locations. And you've even gone down on the coast and down into up the Columbia River, which kudos to you for doing the Columbia Bar. That's fantastic. And I love your explanations of it, of explaining the pros and cons. And altogether, you don't sugarcoat it too much. You point out where some of these challenges are. How did you feel going up over the bar on the Columbia?
You know, we got so lucky. The weather was so good. Our worst experience was the Westport bar. We weren't expecting it to be bad. I don't know, we misread the forecast, but we had probably 8 to 10 foot waves leaving Westport on our way to Oregon. So that when you're not ready for it, it was pretty scary when, you know, the whole boat just is moving in directions you didn't think it could move in. But then,
Good way to put it.
yeah. But the Columbia Bar, we were mentally prepared. I mean, that was one of the things that was scaring us about going into Oregon in the first place and going to Astoria. So we had for several months been just reading up and preparing. And then we got there and it was flat seas and really good. So we got lucky. But then we went to the Maritime Museum in Astoria and got totally freaked out again because it's all about the Columbia Bar and the deaths that have happened there and the cargo ships and all the ships that have sunk trying to cross. So it's not anything to just think you're going to cross easily.
A good weather window is always the answer. And as Leonard and Lorena can point out, they've got some stories of their own because they've been down to Mexico and up to Alaska. And we've all had some interesting character building experiences is what I like to call them.
Yeah.
Character building.
It's good. And that, you know, before we went to Oregon, Shawn didn't really want to go. We only had 2 weeks to take off, and he was just a little bummed thinking about spending a lot of that 2 weeks doing something that needed our attention the whole 2 weeks, where we couldn't just go to the San Juans and kind of know that it's going to be smooth sailing the whole time. And I really wanted to push us to do something scary because, you know, I said, we're always in calm waters. We're always taking the easy road. Let's do it and see how we do. And it was good to experience it and know, like, every time you experience something new like that or push yourself to do a different body of water and in different conditions, especially overnight, you just feel better and you want to go farther.
Yeah. And how about up in this area, the San Juans, and I'll even throw it out there, Rosario Strait can be one of the scariest places in this immediate area. And have you had any tough experiences in the San Juans or areas north where you've gone?
Not so much the San Juans, probably the Strait of Juan de Fuca going, west out to the west coast of Vancouver Island. Last year we had some pretty nasty seas and we had to duck in, and there's not a lot of places to do so. But just the Strait, not in the islands and Rosario Strait. We haven't really had any issues in those areas.
Yeah.
So what started you documenting this for a YouTube channel? As we know from doing this show every week and from doing other things that we do at the Wagner Guide, once you start, you got to feed the beast. And you guys are now doing a weekly show. You've got to come up with all kinds of storylines, and I'll talk about that in a few moments. But how did that all start?
Yeah, and it's true. This year we've gotten lucky where we've had enough to share every week. We don't put pressure on ourselves to just throw stuff out there if we're just trying to like force a video, but there's just a lot, especially when you live on a boat, there's just always something to share, we've been finding. But I think we used to watch, like I'm sure you guys did or do too, Delos, SV Delos.
Yes.
And they were one of the first channels we started watching, I think even back in Wisconsin. And what I really liked about that channel was it wasn't, and no offense to any other channel, but it wasn't like a 20-year-old who had just graduated from college who was just sailing around the world. It was a guy who worked at Microsoft, who was a corporate guy, who I felt like I could relate to him, that, you're in your 30s and you feel like you want to do something else with your life. And to watch him do it and give it all up and go sail around the world was really inspiring. So we always thought, well, as we got more and more into the idea of wanting to travel the world, especially, on our boat, we thought, well, maybe a YouTube channel could help us fund that at some point. And, but neither one of us had ever made a video. And one night I saw Shawn tinkering with an editing software and it looked crazy. I was like, there's no way we could ever make a video and do this YouTube thing. And then a couple months went by. It's kind of a funny story because at the time I worked in technology for Nordstrom in Seattle, and we had to do project presentations. And one of the teams did this amazing video. And I went up to the project manager after and I said, how did you make your video? It was so professionally done. And he said, oh, my 11-year-old did it on iMovie on her iPad. And I came home and I said, okay, we're going to try to make a video. Like, it's probably not that hard. And we just went out with our dog Sandy one day on the boat and made a video and found it to be really fun and a good way to not only document our travels, because those types of videos are what inspired us to move out here in the first place. But it kind of just snowballed, and it's been 5 years now that it's just kind of grew and grew and grew. And I really enjoy it, making the videos, and it's kind of cool to see where it can go. And you know, you don't make a ton of money on YouTube, but it can be something so that when we do start cruising full time, we're not completely broke.
So your goal is to basically create this YouTube channel to a point that it can fund your lifestyle?
To a point that it can pay some of the bills. I don't know if it'll ever get to a point where it could fund everything. And, you know, that's why we're not doing it full time. We still work, or Shawn still has the traditional full-time job. But the hope is at some point it can help us extend our savings for beyond what we have now.
Good way to put it. And how many people are now watching your channel?
We have about almost 26,000 subscribers, which is crazy.
Yeah,
crazy.
That is.
It's a few more than us, Mark.
Yeah, I think so. That's why I invited them on.
Exactly. You're no dummy.
We can bring our numbers up.
The old piggyback. I like that, Bunzel.
Yeah. And
I have a question. To stay organized, were there books that you read or you'd recommend how to pare down, how to stay organized, minimalism, anything in that regard that's helped you to kind of get rid of some of the stuff that we don't need so much?
We've always lived in really small spaces. I mean, we've always lived in apartments or condos. We've lived in cities in Milwaukee and in Seattle. So we've never, I guess, been used to, you know, having a ton of space. And then while we were here, we lived in 4 different places. And each move that we made, you know, we were continually downsizing. And our last place was a studio apartment downtown. It was about 550 square feet. You know, had kind of a galley kitchen, and the bedroom was just partitioned off with kind of a glass wall to the rest of the place. And our boat is, we figured it out one day, we think it's about 400 square feet, but it honestly feels bigger than our last studio, just because the way the space is laid out and the fact that it has sort of 2 separate staterooms and heads. So for us, it really wasn't a big challenge. And we knew that when we moved onto the boat, we didn't want to have storage units. So if it didn't fit on the boat, we needed to make decisions about what to do with that stuff.
Yeah. Also, I didn't read the Marie Kondo book, but I've heard a ton about it. And some old colleagues of mine, since I worked in retail and I was for a while in inventory management, one of my VPs always talked about that book. And she always said, is this bringing our customers joy? Like, is this bringing you joy in your life? And I always thought, for like the last year before we moved aboard the boat full time, I always thought of that. Like every time I go into the closet, if I saw things that I hadn't worn in 6 months, if there were kitchen appliances, we had over each move, we would donate and get rid of so much stuff. And I think it helps to move frequently because you see all the things that you have that you don't even use. And it started to just make us annoyed with ourselves. Like, why do we have all this stuff that we're not even touching? Even last night, when we were doing our dishes, I said, look around, we still have so much that we don't even touch. So you just have to be realistic and take a hard look at all the things you have and assess what brings you joy and what doesn't.
What I love is you don't have a lawnmower. I mean,
Yeah.
No, I don't either. I live in a townhouse. But the whole idea of not having the responsibility of dealing with what's outside. And Shawn, you put a lot of tender loving care into freedom. I mean, if I understand right, your biggest joy in the world is getting out there and waxing and polishing.
Probably.
Freedom.
No, you know, I like tinkering. I have a hard time sitting still. And I have a hard time, you know, there's a lot of great people out in the marine industry that'll take care of work for you if you don't want to do it yourself. But I have a hard time, you know, paying people to do things that, you know, maybe we could do ourselves. And you can save a fair bit of money, you know, if you do learn how to do a lot of those things yourselves, whether it's, you know, simple stuff like waxing the boat or changing the fluids in the engine. I wouldn't say I love it, but it's all right.
Well, and we've had friends over the years who boated with us before, especially in Milwaukee, that they boated with us and had boats, and they also had the home and the cars and the kids, and I guess just the home and the cars are what's relevant, but they were so stressed out having to deal with both and having to always come to the marina to clean the boat on the weekend and then go mow the lawn. And I just thought we love boating. Like, this just is what we do. We don't take a lot of vacations. Like, everything is on the water for us. So we weren't trading off like, oh, we have to go and wax, or, oh, we have to go and clean and then go mow the lawn. So it would be hard if you had to deal with all of that.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because I was really impressed in one of your recent episodes about a month ago, where Shawn, you dug into the cooling system of your gen set, your Northern Lights gen set. And I thought, I wonder how many people are out there in the audience thinking, and did you encourage them that they could do it? Because what Shawn did is he took apart the whole cooling system, sent parts off to the radiator shop to be redone, and wrapped his body around this, because like most boats, it's not the easiest to get to. But what are your limits, Shawn? How far will you go on the repairs?
I don't, just about everything. One thing that's nice about this boat is it's very simple. The engine's a fully mechanical diesel. It doesn't have electronic fuel injection and an ECU. It's all mechanical fuel pumps. So it's pretty simple. Some boats are much more complex. If you get a boat nowadays with IPS on it, or any pod drive system, those are probably things I wouldn't tinker with. But that's what I like about this boat is nothing feels, I guess, outside of my limits of maybe what I could learn if I don't know it already. And there's lots of avenues for people that want to learn it. Whether it's attending different seminars at a boat show, ring the bell.
Thank you, Shawn.
Or different books, or in our case, we have a Northern Lights generator, and they're right here in Seattle. And I took a class there for 3 days with Lugger Bob, and he'll get you educated on the generator, and he'll teach you how to do anything that you want to know about it. So there's a lot of avenues for people to get smarter about their boats and their systems if that's something that they're interested in.
I have a question for you.
Let Leonard jump in.
Yeah, so a question about you. I see you use a drone a bit. Is that right?
We do, yeah.
Can you talk about some of the experiences? Because we just started using the drone and ran into some very interesting things, like the return to home feature on the drone, and home used to be back over there about a mile or so. Any kind of experiences like that? How many drones have you been through, or are you still on the original one?
So we've been through 2 drones.
One.
Pilot Air.
One we lost.
We've learned quite a bit. So when we fly it from the boat, we take off the drone from our hand, and we retrieve it from our hand as well. We don't try to land it on the boat while it's moving. Honestly, the drones nowadays, they have more and more like collision avoidance sensors, which makes it more difficult to land it on the boat, because the minute you start bringing it close to yourself, the drone wants to either fly the other way to stay away from you because you're getting too close to it. So one thing that I found is a lot of the remotes nowadays, they have a switch where you can turn it into sport mode, and when you turn it into sport mode, it disables a lot of those collision avoidance sensors. So we'll bring the boat to kind of a dead still if we can, or just slow idle, and I'll fly the drone as close to the boat as I can with the sensors enabled. And then when I get really close to myself, I'll use one hand and I'll switch the remote over to sport mode to turn all the sensors off, and then I'll reach out and grab it. And when the sensors are off, then the drone won't want to try to fly away from me. But the other thing you need to be aware of is when you take the drone off, the takeoff point is usually the return to home point. And it calculates its battery based on how long it takes to get back to that point. So if you're having it follow you for several minutes, you're obviously getting further and further away from that point. And at some point, the drone's going to say, I got to go back to home because it's 3 miles back from where I launched it. So you either need to force a new home position, or just cancel the return to home and override it and manually fly it back to yourself.
Yeah, but also maybe wear gloves. Sometimes when Shawn's grabbing it, I'm watching at the helm and I'm like cringing waiting for like a finger to get dinged. So be careful.
That is the other big problem. The drones keep getting smaller and smaller, so there's nothing good to grab on them. The old drones had the big landing gears on the bottom, and something easy to just take your arm and go and grab it out of the sky.
So what drone do you have now? What do you use?
We have a Mavic Mini and a Mavic 2. And the Mavic Mini is the entry-level drone. It's from DJI. It's the least expensive drone that they offer. And honestly, it's like a go-to drone for us. We love the way it flies. You don't feel too bad if you do end up losing it. And it has all the bells and whistles is pretty much as what the larger drones do. So I highly recommend it for anybody that's wants to get their first drone and learn how to fly and get some shots of their boat.
Yeah.
And I think in some of your credits, you've said that Elizabeth is often drone pilot also.
I'm the remote pilot in command, so I have to be around when he's flying it. Usually it's Shawn flying it. I don't have the guts to fly it over water.
She's the credentialed drone pilot between the two of us, but I'm usually the one flying it, and she just tells me what to do.
Yeah, I'm the warden that says, no, we can't fly here. No, you can't go over there. No, you can't go over people. No, you got to come home.
Got it. Before we move away from your maintenance, I want to give you credit, Shawn. I was totaling up how much money you saved doing that maintenance on your gen set, that you spent the better part of a day, and I know what a mechanic costs, and you got right in there and were able to, and being liveaboards, I know saving money like that. I mean, that was a $2,500 day.
Yeah.
It was 2 days, I think.
Yeah,
right?
easily. I mean, between part markup and labor, I'm sure any mechanic is between 100 and 150 bucks an hour. So you have someone on your boat for a day, it's $1,000 or $1,500. And there's been a lot of jobs. Like I said, we haven't had a mechanic do anything on our boat since we've owned it, other than bottom paint. Only because a lot of the yards don't want you to do that yourself. But otherwise, everything we've done ourselves. We had to change a muffler on this boat as a dry stack exhaust, which wasn't a fun job at all. It was really messy, and it had to be cut out and wrestled out of the boat. So that was something I did myself. I adjust the valves on the engines, and I did maintenance on the stabilizer. So installed new appliances and electronics on the boat. So we've tackled a lot of different projects, and I would think, over the years, we've probably on average saved $10,000 to $15,000 a year by tackling all those jobs ourselves.
And did you have training before this? I'm glad you mentioned the Northern Lights training program, because I know that's an outstanding class. Even if you don't buy a Northern Lights, he just teaches so much of the basics. But did you have other mechanical training?
Yeah, nothing specific to boat maintenance. I run a company where I lead a team of engineers. We design and build factory automation, so assembly equipment and inspection and packaging equipment. So by nature, I'm surrounded by mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, machine builders. My background is a tool and die maker. I work in the plastics industry, is kind of what our parent company is. So I've always been a hands-on mechanical type of person.
Well, my hat goes off to you. As I said, I count the amount of money you've saved, and more power to you. You've inspired me to do more on my boat, which is going to be an absolute disaster when I do that. But I'll let you know if anything blows up.
We have a big winter of projects coming, so you'll probably, if you like the project videos, you'll probably like this winter.
Well, I like the mixture of what you do, and Elizabeth, you've done some great cooking things, shown some things, and you have an onboard tester who gives you feedback immediately, and I love the way you balance it for a cruising couple. Now, one episode that is there was a recent episode about Christmas decorations on your Nordhavn.
Oh, brother.
You can see they're up, right? Right over here. You can.
Yeah.
The dinosaur is still on the bow?
Well, the dinosaur had to come down this week with the high winds, but he'll go back up as soon as the weather forecast improves.
Shawn saved his life by taking him down.
I probably should have left them up, and I would have taken care of them. But
well, the part where Elizabeth, you described that Shawn didn't like the lights you put up. He couldn't take them down. So he went through and started clipping them to cutting them. I mean, I felt your pain for both
Yeah,
of you.
that was a shocker. And you know, I told him last year, because last year was the first time we had seen the Seattle Christmas boat parade through Elliott Bay. And we had been to Poulsbo and we saw the parade. And for a long time, I've always said, like, I would love to decorate one of our boats. And last year I said, if next year we're living aboard and the boat is our home, we are definitely decorating the boat. And he said, no, you're not. So it's not like he was warned. He was warned.
He was warned. And just spoiler alert to people watching, because I hope you look at the episode. But Elizabeth wisely waited for Shawn to go out of town on a business trip. And then she did all of this, and more power to you. You climbed all over that boat. I applaud you for that. And she had the boat fully decorated. And Shawn came back after an airline flight, I assume from the Midwest.
Yeah.
And he was visibly cranky. And here I'm watching, and here is the couple that have the dream life. And all of a sudden, they're cranky. And we're going to cut the decorations down. And I thought, oh my God, I hope they stay together after this episode. So it was great realism and great television. And Shawn, you get an Academy Award for your crankiness.
Yeah.
So the part of the story that wasn't told is, I was flying home that night.
I told it.
Well, Elizabeth usually picks me up from the airport, and that night I think she was worried about Dino flying away in the wind. So I'm on the plane and I was connected to Wi-Fi, and she sends me a message. She says the truck won't start. You're gonna have to Uber or find your way home. And the next day we were planning to take the boat out. It was the weekend before Thanksgiving. I had the week off and we were gonna go up to the San Juans, and I'm like, oh great, now I got to deal with the truck not starting. So I was cranky about that, and then I got in the boat and I was in the pilot house, and it was windy that night, and I hear this clanging, and I look out the hatch in the pilot house, and the lights that were strung up the strong arms are slapping against the strong arms. I'm like, the lights got to go. So I clipped them and pulled them down, but it's all good. They've grown on me and they're back up.
They were not.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what next Christmas happens. What happens next Christmas?
I'm worried.
He's not going to leave town.
I have a question. Looking back in the transition to living on the boat, what's the single best piece of advice you received?
That we received?
Yeah. About how to make it work?
We didn't receive any advice. I guess, some friends of ours, they have a blog, Red Rover. We met them. It was funny. We met them through our real estate agent when we were selling our condo to buy our boat. They have a 55 Nordhavn. So before we bought Freedom, we met them and went on their boat, and they both worked and still do work and travel. And I was just really curious about, how did you leave? They had the house, and they have a couple kids that are now grown up, but I was curious, like, just how do you, what do you guys miss, and how was the transition for you? And they were basically like, we wish we would have done this sooner. We love it. They love the freedom of it, kind of being free of all the stuff like we've talked about. And now they're cruising. Now they're in Mexico. So.
Nice.
Leonard, Lorena, did you have any trouble with the transition? Because you did the same thing. You moved from beautiful home in Juanita and onto the boat, and then going off to Mexico.
We lived aboard for 7 years. Absolutely loved it. I think it's easy to meet your neighbors, right? You're out walking on the dock and you meet so many people, and people are more outgoing, more friendly. You just have a great time meeting people. You can move your home, which is your boat, wherever you want to. And that was fabulous. We kept some things and did put them in storage, but we lived on the boat for 7 years. And so, yeah, it was nice not to have a lot of stuff for a while.
And that it was for our phase of life, which was downsizing time, getting rid of the stuff. You talked about that, you two, and not having very much stuff. And after a lifetime of a family and so on, you accumulate a lot of stuff. And it was a good experience to do that, to get rid of that stuff. And Lorena's always one. She's very neat and tidy and doesn't keep anything that's not being used or active or purposeful. Which, by the way, is the reason that I stay active all the time. Because if I'm not active and useful, I'm out. You know, the weekly pickup is gone. Leonard's gone.
I worry
at
about that
point.
myself.
Seriously, she's very organized. So it was a little easier for us because she was very organized and had everything pared down before we did that. But we absolutely love the liveaboard. You talked about it. I was smiling a little bit when you were talking about how, you know, everything in the 400 square feet. I did the same calculation on our boat and came up with a number that was almost identical to yours.
Sure.
And it's wonderful. It also saves money in the shopping spree. She's a shopper too. And so when you're on a boat, everything she looks at, you say, where are you going to put that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Where are you going to put that?
I'm not a big shopper, but I love watching home shows. Like I love Home and Garden Network, where they, you know, the even $1 Million Listing, that show, and real estate. And there are some times where I'll watch some of those shows and you see these beautiful homes being built, and you stop for a second and you're like, wow, wouldn't it be nice to have that that beautiful kitchen, and wow, look at, they have a movie theater. But then we always stop, or at least I always stop and think, if you're landlocked, like, what are you going to do? I love being able to move your home. So, if, you know, there'll come a point where we leave Seattle and we go south and go north. And it's nice to know that when you get the itch to change up your scenery, it's a lot easier to just take your home versus having to sell a home and buy a new one and uproot that way. We just we can have all of the comforts of our home. Like we have our Christmas tree up right now and we're going to move it in a few days. And when we lived on land and we'd go see our family for the holidays, we never had a Christmas tree because we thought, well, we're never going to be there. We're going to leave our home and go to someone else's home. Now it's nice to know that even if we go out of town, we're still in our home.
Yeah. So you got fresh eyes to this area, relatively fresh eyes. What's your favorite? What have you found that just blew you away that you can want to go back to or tell all your friends about? What's been your favorite?
You go first.
Oh, geez. I mean, obviously, I think Susha is probably a favorite for just about everybody. It certainly ranks high with us. We've really got to liking Orcas Island, East and West Sound.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people go there besides going to like Rosario or sort of a marina. So it's nice to anchor in some of those bays and often have them to yourselves. So those have become a new favorite for us this year. I think.
Yeah. When I think of like where I really want to go, even before COVID, during COVID, hopefully after COVID, is Tofino, British Columbia. I mean, this area is amazing, but something about British Columbia is just extra magical. And when we circumnavigated in our Searay, just that whole west coast of the island is awesome. And I can't wait to get back there, hopefully sooner rather than later. And then, you know, the Broughton's are amazing. You get into these little marinas and you look up and there's huge mountains and there's bears and it's pretty awesome. But yeah. Tofino's awesome.
I'll add to that, and Leonard, Lorena, and I have been talking about this lately, and that's Haida Gwaii. And I don't know whether you've had a chance to get up there yet, but it's another one of those incredibly special places. And we'll have to dedicate a show one night to Haida Gwaii, because not a lot of people go there because they're scared and of the crossing of Hecate Strait. But you know, it's watching the weather window. I got lucky and it was pretty flat going across, and then flat coming back. And other people have had another experience doing it. So we'll have to save that one up. But
Tofino's got the nice hot springs also in that area, and surfing and a lot to offer there.
Yeah.
What are your favorite boating apps that you swear by?
Navionics.
Yeah, Navionics. For weather, SailFlow is certainly one that we look at frequently, as well as like Windy and Predict Wind. That's probably about it.
Uh-huh.
And in your weather preparation, and you've done some great, you know, your trip down the coast was interesting to see how you prepared and everything. How do you put together your weather plan for a passage?
Yeah, I mean, we look for light winds. Not particularly concerned with maybe the direction of the wind, but more obviously the velocity of the wind. So, generally if it's going to be sustained winds over 15 or 20 knots, we'll probably look to wait things out, because likely in our experience, it seems like it's always higher than what it predicts. It's rarely, lower. Half of what they predict.
I agree.
For us, that's huge. Obviously, on the West Coast, you're in, you're out in the open ocean, so you can't just be looking in the areas local to where you're going to boat, but you need to zoom out a bit and see, what are the different fronts coming through and the winds offshore, because obviously waves will build and they'll carry a very long distance. So it's important to not just look at your immediate surroundings, but take a little bit wider view and use that as part of your planning.
Good. And
What's on your agenda what's your short list of places to go?
That you want to go.
What do you mean by short list?
Unless,
Yeah,
how far north do you want to go, or what are your plans for continuing northward?
Yeah, we just solidified some plans yesterday. We ultimately want to get up to Anchorage and get into Prince William Sound and just do all of Alaska, southeast, all the way up. With Shawn's work, it may not happen this year in 2021. So we might actually go south for a year and spend some time in the Bay Area, cruising from San Francisco up to Sacramento and maybe into the Stockton area that we've been hearing more about, that it's got some pretty interesting spots. Shawn's itching for warm weather. I'm fine here, but we might take a year and do some California cruising and then come back up here and then head north in 2022.
yeah, be careful what you wish for in the Stockton area. The Delta can get really warm, and but it is great cruising down there.
Yeah, we're thinking maybe starting in the Bay Area, and then the live aboard is still difficult in California too, so we might have to do 60 or 90 days in a place and then move south for another 60 or 90 days. And as long as Shawn's near an airport, we could maybe make a year out of seeing all of California, and then we've checked that off the list. So next stop would be Alaska, and not sure where we go after Alaska. Maybe the Northwest Passage if we have the guts to do it, or go back through Mexico and the canal and into the Caribbean.
Have you thought about taking the Nordhavn across the Atlantic?
Yeah, we have.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
I think there's
I think definitely that's our, when we get into Mexico, that's the plan, to go through the canal into the Caribbean and then up on the east coast of the US and then over to Scandinavian area.
Boy, I agree with that plan. That sounds fantastic.
It's a
With
little
us
easier.
traveling with a dog as well, it's easier. In the South Pacific, just a lot of countries require quarantine of the dog, and just seems like
There's Mr. Sully.
Mr. Sully.
You just
For
heard
everybody else who hasn't seen their channel, Mr. Sully gets top billing right at the front of the show. So, and you guys do a great job and taking care of it. Is Eddie in the picture here? Okay, the Landons, and I teased them last week. There we go. There is Eddie.
Oh,
There.
oh, they're on mute. There they go.
He's a
Only about 4 months old, so he
So
gets very playful in the evening, and he tears around and
Oh
plays
my
with
gosh.
toys.
How does he do on the boat?
Well, he's new. We had another dachshund. She lived to be nearly 18 years old. And we
Wow.
had to say goodbye in April. Of course, that made us very sad, so we had to get another. So he will be new to boating. It'll be a new experience for him.
So the new dog, Eddie's gonna have some big shoes to fill, because our previous dog, Java, she was a very good boat dog. We even had a picture of her on the, when we were headed down the coast and we were heeled over and have this picture of her in a companionway. The companionway is about like this and she's standing straight up this way.
She's leaning on all fours.
All
to
fours and
keep-
Oh my God.
riding it out.
Yeah,
How
Sully's
about your dog? What and yours?
Your dog is
7.5. He's a rescue. We had our lab Sandy, who passed away last December, and she was almost 14 and had been boating with us almost her entire life. So luckily we had 3 years with Sandy showing Sully how to boat and what to do and how to use the pea patch. And,
Well, that answers that question without
yeah,
asking.
pea patch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But we used to have a fire hydrant because, Sully being a little boy dog, he took to the fire hydrant. If he could pee on something, he would go. And then one night we were in some wake and he knocked the fire hydrant over, and forever he's now afraid of the fire hydrant. So when we had to get rid of the fire hydrant, and now every time we're at anchor, it takes us like a day to get him, or 2 to get him to use it. And we force it, we don't take him to shore. We just wait. We say, okay, buddy, you're going to have a stomach ache if you don't go. And usually by the 24-hour mark, if he does go that long, he's usually fine.
So you've got Mr. Sully to help you meet people on the dock. Have you found that now that you have your YouTube channel, are people recognizing you when you're out boating?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's that been for you to be famous?
It's weird. It's really weird. It's funny, around Shoal, we don't, not a lot of people come up to us, but every time we're cruising outside of the Seattle area, someone comes up and everybody's so nice. So it's nice to meet people. And, before we were, I guess, well known, you'd go to different ports and I guess you could go out of your way to socialize, but you usually kind of went and we would do our own thing and be on our boat, and we didn't get to interact with a lot of people. So it's kind of nice and refreshing, especially nowadays, to meet nice people and like-minded people that are in the boating community and hear their stories of where they're headed.
Yeah, it is. It's an amazing community, and I boated in different areas of the world, and I still think the boating community here is better and more friendly than other places.
Yeah.
So,
Agreed.
now, have you found that people will sometimes follow you the next stop thinking you know where to go, you know where the good spots are? We have people following the Landons all the time.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. At times, we'll delay post, if we're posting something on Instagram, or we may choose at times to run with our AIS in silent mode. A few times, but for the most part, people have been great. It kind of amazed at, how much energy some people put into going out of their way to say nice things. We've had a lady make a blanket for Sully.
Yeah.
We had a guy make this really cool piece of art with a little Nordhavn and our logo on it. So I don't know, it's been pretty crazy, the outreach of how nice some people really are.
Yeah.
And have you started speaking at yacht clubs?
No.
No, I've been asked.
Oh, be
We've been asked
careful. It'll
a
happen.
lot. We've been asked to join a lot of yacht clubs, but because we don't see ourselves being here long term, and we're kind of out on our own a lot, and don't like to be tied down to any type of schedule or anything. We just kind of want to keep our schedule as free as possible to just go and not be committed to a group type thing. We haven't joined.
Well, Leonard, Lorena, and I last week spoke at my yacht club, the Anacortes Yacht Club. And this Friday night, tomorrow night, we're at their yacht club. It just worked out that way, the Fidalgo Yacht Club. So
I didn't know either of those places had a yacht club.
Yeah, Anacortes has 3, total of 3.
3.
Yes. And they have slightly different leanings, power versus sail, but great group of people at all of them.
Yeah, we love
We've had
Anacortes.
A few comments in the chat as we wind down here. My friend Mike Locketel says he hopes you get to Holland. Fantastic cruising. Thatcher was wondering how the comments affected you on the dinosaur episode, if they affected you at all. He thought it was a well done show.
Yeah, people bashed me pretty good in that. So if you want to go read that.
Did they really? Oh,
Yeah. I didn't expect it to be as bad, but I was like, you know, he redeemed himself, at least to me. He fixed the lights. He actually, you know, got his electrical gear out the next morning and fixed them.
I thought it was well balanced. I thought you did a great job with it. And what I applaud you is that, you know, not every cruise with a cruising couple is, you know, perfect.
Right.
And you know, the two of you are with each other all day, 24/7 sometimes, and managing a boat, managing a lifestyle, and it's not going to go perfect at all times. And I thought that was something we could all identify with. So thank you for doing that.
Where can people find you?
I'm glad you're still together. We're going to have you in separate windows in this show if it had not worked.
Yeah.
Where can people find you? I've posted your website in the chat, but are you on Facebook, Instagram, obviously YouTube, but what are some of the handles that you prefer?
Yep, we're on Instagram. So at MV Freedom Seattle, you can find us.
Excellent.
And Elizabeth, are you going to start publishing some recipes? Lorena did that in her boating experience with her book series, Cleats and Eats. Not so much recipes, but great places to eat. Will you post some of your recipes?
We should. We definitely should. You know, Shawn's more of the cook. I like to bake, but I don't do a lot of it these days for whatever reason. But Shawn's been like Chef Shawn lately. He's been making some pretty good stuff.
Go for it.
Yeah, we should. We were talking about maybe putting out like from the galley videos, like every once in a while, like just 5-minuters of some of his good recipes.
I think you should. I mean, I love what you do with your Q&A at the end of the show. I think the questions are interesting. It's interesting to hear what people ask you. Yeah. And you do a great job of answering them.
We stole that idea from Cruising Sea Venture, which is another local boating couple out of Everett. They're now in Alaska for the winter, but they always end their videos with a Q&A, and it's probably the part of the video that I enjoyed the most. I'm like, we need to steal that idea and do it as well.
Nothing wrong with stealing a good idea.
That's right.
We have a question from Matt Panic. When will the podcast be back? I'm not sure.
That's our podcast. That's a good question. We do need to address that in 2021. And I think we're going to start by turning this show into being able that people can experience it on podcast while they're in their car or at work or whatever.
24/7.
24/7.
We take over the world, Bunzel.
Listen to us blabber on, king of media.
I've got a podcast. Mark, did you know that?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
I had a big interview this past week with the Speaker of the House, Lori Jenkins. I've had Tom Douglas on. It's been a fun. It's no 26,000 folks on YouTube following, I don't think, but it's been a fun venture for 2020.
You guys need a YouTube channel, and you guys need an Instagram page. I don't think you're not on Instagram, right?
Well, actually, Elizabeth, that's why you're on the show tonight. We actually wanted to talk with you about this.
we are coming up on Instagram, but we do, as of this week, have a YouTube channel, and I don't know. We're about maxed out with media right now.
Yeah, Zuckerberg wants a slice, and we're just like, hold on, Mark.
Yeah, I know, it's rough. Well, I think that about wraps it up.
Yeah.
What a great.
Thanks for being on the show tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
You're our holiday treat. So
I'm glad we ran and got our hats.
I'm glad you did also. For everybody in the audience, we're gonna take a break for 2 weeks. Peter, you get the next 2 Thursday nights off, seeing it's Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. Good planning on that part. And we'll have some great shows starting up on January 7th. And we're going to put together a great schedule for 2021, some great guests. And Shawn and Elizabeth, I really would like to have you back at some point. I think what you're doing is just fabulous. It's an inspiration. I think more people should consider doing it, and you're so realistic about it and a lot of fun. And Elizabeth, I know I teased you earlier that the other shows all show people diving off their boat into that clear blue Caribbean water. And I had a sneak preview. Elizabeth, on her birthday in October, decided to show that she could swim in Northwest waters. I cringed as she dove off the boat, but she made it, she survived. And she said something tonight before we got started that she may do this again in January.
Yeah, the polar plunge is coming to the Pacific Northwest.
Polar plunge. So one of the upcoming shows, maybe we'll see Elizabeth braving the Northwest as only a woman from Wisconsin can do.
Yeah, it's really not that, I'm not a doctor, but it's so healthy for you. I've had some back problems in the last couple of years that the minute I go into freezing cold water, it zaps it all away. So there's a good reason for me jumping in the water.
As our lawyer would say, please don't take this as a recommendation.
Exactly.
This is an individual opinion. The producers of the show have nothing to do with recommending that you jump into
the question is, am I going to get Shawn in the water for January 1?
We'll have to see.
I'm not going to put money on it.
Cliffhanger.
All right, everybody.
Yeah, well,
So,
see you next year. Fun show tonight, a big show tonight. Hope you all check out SeattleBoatShow.com.
and
check out the
thank our
Wagoner.
sponsors, the
Yeah.
Wagner Guide and Gene Grossbeck Realty and Anacortes for your waterfront house needs. And there's a Wagner Guide.
There it is on cue.
We're
Shawn and
excited
Elizabeth have one.
to use it. It was so helpful this summer when we went to the South Sound for the first time. We loved it. So thank you guys for sending us a new one.
To tell you the truth, it was good for Leonard, Lorena, and myself when we went to the South Sound, because we hadn't been there in years. And now that area has been all updated, and we had respectively had a great time. Great time down there. So thank you for bringing that up. So, all right.
Well, yeah, thank the viewers at home. Episode 29 for us. We started this on a lark for Saturday Night Live. That was a comedian by the name of Steve Martin. I think I know that name. Might be
I've
still
heard of
around.
it.
Yes.
I've heard of
Also a
it.
fantastic banjo player, and he has a Liechtenstein collection that is world famous as well. So multi-talented man.
Yeah.
But as are we. So there you go, Mark. We'll see you. We'll see you all next year. Thanks for watching. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your comments on the chat line. Have a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Good night.
Guys.
Good night.